Excel has conditional logic that you can utilize to output specific values based on filtered conditions. The first condition that we'll discuss here is going to be the if condition. What this conditional logic allows you to do is say, if a cell equals some sort of value, then I want you to output this value, otherwise do something else. In this case, let's go ahead and create an if statement that looks at one of the values in the category field. What we want to say here is, if for this row, the category equals underpants, then output a value of 1, otherwise output a value of 0. As we go through this exercise, pay close attention to the formula bar and the helper text that's being displayed. That's going to be a really good guide to help you understand what parameters this formula wants you to input. To get us started, let's go over to column J, and we're going to create a new header label here in cell J1. In this cell, let's go ahead and title this is underpants YN, and that's just for yes or no. Now in cell J2, we're going to go ahead and write our formula. We're going to start off by typing that equal sign, since that's the start of a formula. Then we're going to type the word if, and then that open parenthesis. Next, we're going to go ahead and click on cell B2 because that's a cell that we want to evaluate. Then we'll go ahead and type in a comma here, and then we'll type in the word underpants. So far, what Excel is going to do is it's going to check cell B2 to see whether or not it equals underpants. Now, the next thing that we need to do here is put in a comma because that's the end of the conditional test that we're doing. Now we need to specify a value of what do we want to have happen if that evaluates to true or if cell B2 equals underpants. In this case, we'll just keep it simple and we'll return a value of 1, meaning true, and then we'll put another comma and we'll put a 0, and 0 means false in this case. We'll go ahead and put that closed parenthesis on the end, and then we'll hit enter, and here we get our result. While we did get our result, it's not quite what we expected. Because cell B2 does not equal underpants, we were supposed to get a value of 0, but we're getting this $0. The reason for this is Excel guessed on what data type it should be, and it guessed wrong in this case, so we'll just go ahead and we'll change this data type over to a decimal value. And then after setting it to 0 decimal places, we can see here that we're getting that value of 0, which is what we expected. Now let's go ahead and drag this formula down for a few rows here and see if it matches on underpants and returns the value that we'd expect. As you can see, when that formula matches up with one of the records that actually has underpants for the category, we're getting a value of 1. Now, we only populated this formula by dragging it down for a few records, and if we wanted to drag this to all the records in the sheet, that might be a little bit of a time-consuming process. To make this operation a little bit faster, all we have to do is navigate to the cell with our formula in it here, and then we'll double click on this bottom right hand corner, and that's going to auto-populate the formula all the way to the bottom. Now, one really important call out here is when you do this auto-population by double click, you should always scroll down to the bottom of the sheet to make sure that your formula was populated all the way to the bottom. Under some conditions or in some versions of Excel, when you go ahead and you double click to populate, Excel might not populate it to the bottom. If that were to be the case, you might think that you have your formula completed, and then if you go do any other operations on that data, you're thinking you're working with all the data, but you're really not.